Welcome back to Close Up. It's a good problem to have. On his most recent trip to New Hampshire, Andrew Yang drew overflow crowds, and he's going to need bigger venues in the month ahead as the upstart entrepreneur tries to shock the world even more than he already has. Mr. Yang is our guest this morning. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Adam.
Yeah. So the DNC has said it's not going to do any more or add additional polls or do anything else that would perhaps expand the polling range a little bit that might get you on the debate stage. Is that a big deal for you? Because you made it this far without necessarily relying too much on that debate stage.
Well, I think the people here in New Hampshire need to have their voice heard. And if you look at it, there has not been a qualifying poll run here in the state for a month and a half. We know a lot can change in a month and a half. And so to me, the message to the DNC should be, this is a democracy and we need to hear what the people think.
You're not big on drawing contrasts that are super sharp with your opponents, but the other day Joe Biden said that we can teach coal miners to code, and you came out and said that's not necessarily what we need to be doing. Why shouldn't we be teaching coal miners to code?
There's so many reasons that that's, to me, very unproductive. By the numbers, 8% of Americans are in STEM fields, and saying to the other 92%, hey, you need to be like these 8%, just won't work. The other thing is maybe a lot of Americans have no interest in coding, and going around saying you should learn how to code is unproductive at best and misleading at worst. So what we have to do is actually have the jobs of the future be organized around what we want to do, what our communities need and value, as opposed to some narrow idea of what the market values. We have to disentangle economic value and human value and say we have intrinsic value as Americans.
This whole idea of kind of like job retraining can work if we just really put our shoulder into it. This is kind of what you've been talking about all along, that that's an outdated way of looking at the economy and trying to do things through the government. But doesn't that also say, though, that Joe Biden's too old to be president?
I mean, I'd agree with the first half of that statement. The reality is job retraining programs have not worked by the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. The success rates have been very low, 0 to 15%. And the people here in New Hampshire saw that unfold when the manufacturing plants closed in the northern part of the state in years past, where many of those workers did not get retrained. Instead, they ended up leaving the field, leaving the workforce in many cases, and many of those towns have never recovered.
You're not an easy candidate to categorize at all, and that's part of your allure, but it's going to be hard for you to get those people who come on board now and they're looking for somebody, gosh, I really like Andrew Yang. What do you say to those people who say that? I like this guy, but I'm not looking for big change that might come with something like a universal basic income.
Well, what I would say to them is we need to solve the real problems that got Donald Trump elected. The reality on the ground that we're seeing record high levels of stress, student loan debt, financial insecurity, even drug overdoses and suicides. That these are the real problems that got Donald Trump elected, and they're only going to get worse as 30% of our stores and malls close because Amazon is soaking up $20 billion in business and paying zero in taxes. I am the man to solve the problems on the ground and give us all a new way forward in the 21st century.
Is there anybody who won't get universal basic income?
Well, it's universal, but it's opt-in. So you would have to say, hey, I have no interest in getting $1,000 a month. And I'm sure there'll be some American somewhere who decides that $1,000 a month would be unhelpful.
But, I mean, in terms of, there are some people who would obviously, what about someone who would obviously use it to the wrong ends? If I'm, for instance, a twice convicted drug runner or gun runner or something like that, and there are these red flags, maybe it's not the best idea to give me $1,000 a month?
If you're presently incarcerated, then you do not get the freedom dividend because we're putting that money towards your incarceration. But if you've paid your debt to society and you're coming out of jail, then you do get the freedom dividend, which will help you reintegrate into the workforce and society and will give you a reason to stay out of jail.
Speaking of money, fundraising isn't everything in politics, but it is something. And you've been able to put together a couple of, a good quarter and a good last week or so here. What are you going to do with this money that you've raised recently? Is this going to be plowed into going big in Iowa and New Hampshire, or are you going to try and build out?
Oh, you know what we're going to do. We're going to spend it right here in New Hampshire, Adam. It's time for Andrew Yang on the airwaves. Watch out when you turn on the TV. Yeah, we're going to spend it in Iowa and New Hampshire to make our case to the American people because, you know, I'm still new to many Americans. People are still getting to know me, so we're going to hopefully make that easier.
You've come a long way on the impeachment process with President Donald Trump. Before, you were kind of like, this is just a distraction. We don't need to be paying attention to all this stuff, maybe even a waste of time. Then you said now with the Ukraine situation, this is something that meets that. But with how this has gone, and it turned in a partisan way in the House there, and now we don't know if Nancy Pelosi is going to hand it over or when, are the Democrats kind of shooting themselves in the foot here?
I think the job of the Democrats has to be to present a new positive vision that Americans will get excited about. And when we're talking about Donald Trump, we are losing, even in the context of impeachment. The fact is, not a single Republican has crossed party lines, and so this seems like a ball game where we know what the score is going to be. That's not a great use of Democrats' energies. We need to be focused on a new positive vision for the country and beating him in 2020.
If you were in the House, would you have stood alongside Tulsi Gabbard and voted present?
I would have voted for impeaching the president because you can't put pressure on a foreign leader and withhold aid to sabotage a political rival. That's a clear abuse of power.
So you would have been a yes vote?
Yeah, I would have been a yes vote.
As we mentioned, you're an outsider's outsider. That's part of the appeal. You've never won an election. You've never governed. You've been a CEO. That's part of it. We've got one of those right now in the White House.
Oh, please don't say that.
But that outsider status, it helped President Trump, but it's also in some ways hurt him as he's been in Washington and hasn't been able to navigate some of these situations, whether they want to blame that on the swamp or something else, quote unquote deep state. There are things that have been harder for him because he does not know how it works. How are you going to get around that particular problem if you're in the Oval Office?
First, I would never be one of those CEOs who says I'm going to run government like a business, because they're very, very different things. A government is more similar to a national nonprofit, which I also ran, where you can't just go top down. You have to generate consensus and buy-in for a vision that people will see that if they get on board, it's good for them, it's good for everyone. And that's the way I'd lead as president. The way I'll get things done is I'll do what Barack Obama did, which was find a partner with deep relationships on Capitol Hill. One of the first things that Barack Obama did was pick Joe Biden as his running mate. And I'm going to need a partner who's very much an insider so we can get things done when we get to Washington. On
climate change, you favor a carbon tax. So with that money, what kind of technologies are you interested in? Carbon capture, things like that, where that money would flow into to try and stop this process of global warming?
Now, we need to put a price on carbon emissions, because that will help industries become much more efficient. We all know they just operate on the bottom line, so if it'll impact their bottom line to clean up their production, then that's what they'll do. And then we take that revenue and we move it towards sustainable energy sources like wind, solar, and I would put nuclear in this category too, where other countries have successfully invested in nuclear energy and seen great results, and in a way that's very, very low emission. But we have to face facts, Adam. The United States of America is only 15% of global emissions. So even if we were to bring ourselves way down, the Earth would continue to warm, and we'd still be seeing these floods in Portsmouth and storms around the country. So we need to start protecting ourselves and our communities. I get frustrated when politicians talk about climate change as something that is far off that we can prevent. The fact is, it's here with us now. We're climbing the curve, and we need to start investing to protect our communities and our people.
You're a Medicare for All guy, and kind of circling back to the idea of universal basic income, that part of the genius of that is that decentralizes. It takes the money and just gives it to the people.
Yes. Why
not try something similar on health care? Because Medicare for All is just going to become this massive government bureaucracy.
Well, I'm not someone who thinks that we should sweep away all private insurance plans. I think the goal of the government is to provide a universal plan that then outcompetes those insurers over time. But the healthcare market's very, very different from many other markets, where if you put money into our hands, that does not somehow solve the problems, because you become very, very cost insensitive when it comes to your healthcare. You can't become an expert in everything. You're not going to all of a sudden, understand every medical condition under the sun. So this is an area where the government has to have some role.
I'm sure as a parent of small children, you, just as well as I, you played Dr. Google once or twice there, looking up symptoms and whatnot. But
and the diagnosis is always the kid's going to be all right.
Right, that's a good point.
But after like,
you don't want to follow some of the worst threads there. Yeah. Let's play the expectations game here in New Hampshire. What does a win look like for Andrew Yang?
No, we are seeing so much strength and energy and excitement here in New Hampshire. I think we're going to shock the world. I believe we can contend here in New Hampshire for the whole thing. And when I talk to people around the state, very few people have made up their minds. This is a very fluid and dynamic race. We're growing and growing, and we're going to peak at the right time on February 11th.
A couple quick foreign policy questions here before we wrap up. If you're president, are you going to try to make friends with Kim Jong-un like President Trump has attempted to do?
I don't think it's necessarily a mistake to sit down with Kim Jong-un, but if you sit down with him, you have to have meaningful concessions that you get for your side, and you don't just give him a meaningless photo op. So we do need to keep pressure on North Korea to make sure that they're not continuing to advance their nuclear armaments. But I don't think it's necessarily a mistake to sit down with people.
President Andrew Yang could become a very important voice in the Asia-Pacific region just because of who you are. So will we see you be more of an idealist or a realist there? Are you going to be like Reagan saying, to Chinese authoritarians, tear down this wall kind of stuff, or are you going to play it more safe?
Well, to me, our focus needs to be to outcompete the Chinese. The fact is that they are positioned to potentially leapfrog us in artificial intelligence because they have more access to more data than we do, and their government is subsidizing their computing infrastructure at much higher levels. So if we invest properly, we can continue to remain the world leader in that and other areas. But I would have a very firm hand with the Chinese because if you look at it, they've been appropriating our intellectual property for years now, and there was a period when that was acceptable, but that period is ending.
But you would demand freedom, though. Would you try to stand up more for a liberal democracy?
Well, we need to stand up for our values everywhere, but we need to generate consensus. One of my proposals is a new World Data Organization that's analogous to the World Trade Organization, because right now China's developing its own technology ecosystem and is trying to export it to other countries. What we have to do is we have to set international standards and then say to the Chinese, look, you need to abide by democratic values, or at least not abuse your own people to these levels in order to join the World Data Organization. And that's the kind of combination of carrots and sticks that will actually bring them to the table.
All right, Andrew Yang, thanks for joining us on Close Up.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure as always.
We'll see you on the trail.